Hi students, welcome back. Today is Camp Culture Throwback Thursday number 4, and today we're talking about Polynesian islands and immigration to the United States. For today's Camp Culture activity, you will need a piece of paper. Can be a notebook, can be a loose piece of paper, can be the back of a receipt, whatever you have, and you'll need something to write with. So just make sure that you have both before we begin today. If you need a second to go get something, go get it now while I'm recapping what we did over the course of the last couple weeks. So last week we talked about colonization and more specifically how it affects language. And this week we're going to shift our focus. We're not going to talk about colonization as much. This week we're going to talk about immigration and different systems and ideas around immigration specific to the Polynesian islands. I'm sure that you know a little bit about immigration because it's super relevant right now because people talk about immigration a lot. It's in the news a lot. A lot of us are immigrants. A lot of our friends and family are immigrants. So I'm sure you know a little bit about it, and I hope that today helps you have a bigger picture understanding and more information about immigration, especially in our area. So we're going to learn some terms today. The first term is migrate. And you'll notice that migrate is in the word immigrate. So migrate. And migrate just means to move. It doesn't have a direction, doesn't mean to move, out or to move in. It just means move. Our second term for the day is emigrate. Now you'll see it has migrate inside of it. The word emigrate has the word migrate inside of it. So it's clearly still about movement. To emigrate means leaving your home country for another one. So emigration is when you're in your home country and you leave it. You emigrate out of your home country. And our third term for today is immigrate. And you'll see immigrate, just like emigrate has migrate inside of it, because they're all about people moving from one place to another. The definition of immigrate is arriving in a new country to live. So migrate just means move. Emigrate means to leave a place. Immigrate means to arrive at a new place. Great example of this, and the example we're going to talk about today is Pacific Islanders and specifically Polynesian people emigrating from the Pacific Islands and immigrating to the United States. So remember, emigrate is leave, immigrate is arrive. So when people emigrate from a place, they leave a place, and then they arrive in their new place, and that's the process of immigration. As many of you have probably noticed, and as many of you, this is true for your families, there is a huge Pacific Islander and Polynesian population in East Palo Alto. A lot of people on this Camp Culture might be Polynesian themselves, their families might be Polynesian, and they might be from one of the Polynesian Pacific Islands. So that's specifically what we're talking about today because it's super relevant. East Palo Alto has a huge population of Pacific Islanders, and we're going to talk about where the Pacific Islands are. So the Pacific Islands are in the Pacific Ocean. You can see this is the North Pacific Ocean. There's a little bit of glare. Trying to make it work. And this is the South Pacific Ocean. So the Pacific Ocean is one of 5 oceans in the world. And you can see there are all of these tiny islands throughout the Pacific Ocean. And Polynesia is this area right here, which is one smaller area within the Pacific Islands. So all of these islands that are in the Pacific Ocean are Pacific Islands, and then Polynesia is a smaller part of it. You'll see that there are other small parts. There's Micronesia right here, which is a little bit north, and there's Melanesia right here, which is a little bit west of what we're talking about today. But today we're talking about Polynesia, which is this area of islands right here. Just so that we're all clear on all of our definitions, islands are a landmass, an area of land that's pretty small. Remember that continents are the huge land masses, like this is a continent. Africa is a continent, it's huge. Islands, on the other hand, as you're looking at, on the global scale are tiny. They're teeny tiny, they're super little. They look big when you're on them, but relative to a continent, they're really small. Islands are small land masses that are entirely surrounded by water. So everything around an island is water. It's not connected to more land. There might be more land over here, but an island is entirely surrounded by water. And in the case of the Pacific Islands, the island is entirely surrounded by the Pacific Ocean specifically. So today we are discussing Polynesia. This is how you spell Polynesia, P-O-L-Y-N-E-S-I-A. There are 15 countries or Polynesia, including some that many of us are familiar with, like Tonga or Samoa. A lot of people who live in East Palo Alto, they themselves are from Tonga or Samoa, or they might have family from Tonga or Samoa. And there are a lot of other island countries and island groups in Polynesia that you might not be as familiar with. So this is all 15 of the countries or island groups within Polynesia. You have American Samoa, the Cook Islands, Easter Island, French Polynesia, Hawaii, New Zealand, Niue, the Norfolk Islands, the Pitcairn Islands, Samoa, Tokelau, Tonga, Tuvalu, Wallis and Futuna, and Rotuna. All of these are different island groups. Some of them are their own countries. Some of them are a part of another country, like American Samoa is a part of the United States and has been for quite some time. But people notably in American Samoa are not U.S. citizens. And so when we're talking today about immigration from the Pacific Islands and from Polynesia to the United States, we have a couple fun facts. Did you know that more American Samoan people live in the United States than in American Samoa itself? So more people have moved and had kids here from American Samoa than the actual population of people living in American Samoa today. And this one is really crazy to me. 23% of Tongan people living in the United States live in East Palo Alto or very near to East Palo Alto. So 1 in 4 Tongan people living in the United States lives right where we are right now, or very, very close to here, which is super, super cool. I think the big question is, how did things get this way? How did we get here? Why did so many people move from these Polynesian islands to the United States? Why does everyone live so close together? How come EPA has such a big, awesome Polynesian population? Let's talk about some of the history and find out. So around the 1920s, that's 100 years ago, groups of people moved from both Tonga and Samoa to Hawaii to help build a Mormon temple there. So we're going to look at where Hawaii is really quickly. We all know that Hawaii is a part of the United States now, but when this happened in the 1920s, Hawaii was not a part of the United States yet. The Hawaiian Islands, Hawaii is a group of islands. One of them is called Hawaii, though, so sometimes that gets a little confusing. The Hawaiian Islands are right here in the Pacific Ocean. Tonga is right here. It's a little southwest of Hawaii. Samoa is right here, and American Samoa is right here. So this is the group of islands we were talking about. They're all really close together. And in the early 1920s, people moved from these islands up here to Hawaii to help build a Mormon temple. And it wasn't very many people at all. Mormonism, when you're Mormon, that's a religion. And it's really common in Samoa and Tonga, and really common in Polynesian communities here in the United States. It's also a common religion outside of Polynesian communities in the United States. And so after that, some Tongan and Samoan families moved to California because they wanted to go to the mainland, and California is the closest United States state to Hawaii. So if you look at where Hawaii is right here. And if you want to go to the mainland United States, mainland is this part right here, the part that's all touching each other and isn't an island. You want to go to the mainland United States, California, where we are right here, is the closest one. So folks went right here and started new lives in California. In the 1950s and the 1960s, many more families from Tonga and Samoa moved to the United States in places like California, where they built big communities, and places like Utah. And Utah is towards the middle of the United States. So you can see it's not that far in, This one doesn't have state borders on it, it only has country borders, so it's a little bit hard to tell. But Utah isn't very far into the United States. So people moved here along California and in here to Utah. Both of these places had opportunities for Samoan and Tongan people to continue to do that religious work. So Mormonism and being Mormon was super important to why so many people moved. Definitely not everyone, but a lot of people moved so that they can continue building religious places like churches and temples and continue worshiping in another place. And both Utah and California had those opportunities for people. The migration kept happening quicker and quicker, and the Polynesian population in the United States grew a ton. Now, there are so many Polynesian people working here so quickly, living here. In the early 1950s, the Samoan and Tongan populations, so people living in the United States, was less than 500 people. Samoan and Tongan people living in the United States in the early 1950s was less than 500. Today, so now, it's 241,000 people. So in about 70 years, it has grown so much. Hundreds of thousands of people have migrated, have built homes here, have had kids here, and have really infused the United States with a lot of Polynesian cultures. When people immigrate, remember that means to move from one country to another. Immigrating means arriving in a new country. A lot of times they go where they already know people. They go where they already have family or where they already have friends. And that's how EPA grew this really huge Polynesian community. Think about it. If you had to pick up your whole life right now and move to a strange place where you had never been before, you would go somewhere where there might be people you know. There might be people who used to live in your hometown, or someone your mom knows, maybe one of your cousins lives there, or maybe your family's visited there and knows it there and feels like it's a good place. You would probably pick that over some random place you've never heard of before, some random place you've never been before, because you can trust it. And it's a lot easier to go somewhere you can trust. So that's how we built such a strong community here in EPA. I know that I've personally loved living and working in EPA, getting to know elements of different Polynesian cultures that I wouldn't have seen if I lived somewhere else. Remember, EPA and the surrounding area has such a big Polynesian community, such a big Samoan and Tongan community specifically, that other places in the United States just don't. And I've always felt really lucky to do all this learning living here. And so we've got two things we want to think about before we close today. The first is a discussion question. I'm going to give you some time to think about it, and you can leave your answer in the comments below if you'd like to. It's, how do you think we can do more celebration of the awesome cultures that people have brought here by immigrating in the United States? What can we do to do better celebrating Polynesian cultures here in the United States? I know that we do things here at the clubhouse like Poly Night, and we do some celebrations, but I think we can do a lot better at celebrating the awesome cultures that people have brought to the United States. So spend some time thinking about that. Think. You can go ahead and type your answer in the comments, and you can always do it later as well if you come up with an answer as you think about it more. The second thing, and I'll give you a second to get your paper. Remember, you need a blank piece of paper and something to write with. I hope you had it with you already. Is we're going to do a little activity. We're going to see if we learned our different terms from today, which were migration, emigration, and immigration. So on my piece of paper, I wrote down migration, emigration, and immigration. Take a moment to go ahead and write these down on your paper as well. I'll give you a second. Okay, now that you have all three of these down, I also wrote down definitions, but I jumbled them up, okay? So this isn't the definition for migration, this isn't the definition for emigration, and this isn't the definition for immigration. These are all jumbled up. So take a moment to write these down. Should take you a little bit longer. Okay, now that we all have that copied down, your instructions are to draw lines connecting the word to what you think the right definition is. So if you think migration has this definition down here, you would connect those. If you think emigration has this definition up here, you would draw a line connecting them. So draw a line between all three of these and the definition you think is correct. And in about 30 seconds, I'll put up the correct answers. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and mark my answers. So migration just means to move. So these two are connected. Emigration means to leave your home country, and immigration means to arrive in a new country. So these are the answers right here. I hope everyone learned something today. I hope we had fun celebrating some culture. We're going to do this for 2 more weeks of Camp Culture. We're going to celebrate all around the world and learn a little bit of history. And I hope that it's a good time for all of you. Have a great rest of your day in class. I hope to see you later.